Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're cutting straight to the core of understanding the people you're trying to reach.
Yeah, we're talking about personas.
Exactly, those vital representations that really inform, well, everything from your marketing strategies right through to product development,
And our guide for this exploration is a really comprehensive source called Personas Erstellung für deine Zielgruppe.
which means creating personas for your target group.
Right. And what's particularly sharp about this source is its focus on how AI tools, like ChatGPT, are changing the game.
Changing how we build these profiles.
Yeah, not just streamlining it, but really shifting how we can construct these incredibly useful profiles.
Okay, so for everyone listening, our goal today is simple. Give you a really clear picture of what makes a good persona tick.
Why they're so essential, especially now with everything being so crowded.
And how you can actually use them in practice, including, like you said, the exciting stuff AI brings to the table.
We'll unpack the key bits, give you insights you can use, but, without getting bogged down in basics.
All right, let's jump in. So fundamentally, what is a persona?
Okay, think of it like a highly detailed but fictional stand-in
A stand-in for who?
for a key segment of your users or your potential customers. And it's not just made up, it's built on data.
Data, right. Both kinds.
Exactly. Both the quantitative, the numbers, and the qualitative, which is more the why behind their actions, their motivations.
So it's way more than just saying, oh, our audience is men aged 25 to 40.
Oh, absolutely. It's about really fleshing out a character, giving them, yes, demographics, but also like their daily routines, their goals.
Their challenges, maybe?
Definitely their challenges, their pain points, even how they make decisions related to, what you're offering.
Got it. So the real power is making something abstract feel tangible.
Precisely. Instead of this vague group, you have a specific individual, someone whose needs and wants can guide your strategy on a much deeper level.
An emotional level, even.
Yes. Yeah. Potentially emotional, definitely strategic. It shifts you away from that sort of scattergun approach, trying to talk to everyone.
Towards something much more focused. Empathetic, even.
Exactly. Focused and empathetic communication.
Makes total sense. So why are they so crucial today? Why now?
Well, think about it. Information overload, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's shouting for attention.
Yeah, it's noisy out there.
So relevance isn't just nice to have, it's absolutely key to cut through that noise.
Okay, so for marketing,
For marketing, personas let you create content that speaks directly to specific groups. You're using their language, hitting their motivations, meeting their expectations.
and it's not just about the marketing side, is it? The guide mentions other areas.
Not at all. Take UX design user experience. Personas are like foundational for user-centered development.
How so?
Well, if you understand the typical user's context, how tech-savvy they are, what they're actually trying to do, you can design interfaces and products that just work for them.
That are intuitive.
Right. Intuitive, meet their actual needs. And interestingly, the guide hints that sometimes by really understanding a persona's frustrations, you might uncover needs they haven't even articulated.
Like finding solutions to problems they just work around currently.
Exactly. Things they wouldn't explicitly ask for, but that solve a real pain point you discovered through the persona.
That's fascinating. So it's not just a fuzzy understanding the user thing. There are actual concrete benefits.
Oh, absolutely. Tangible benefits. When you target needs and design for a specific user type,
Conversion rates go up.
conversion rates tend to climb. Yeah, because your message lands better. User satisfaction improves because the product or service actually fits their life.
And that builds loyalty.
Ultimately, yeah. Stronger brand loyalty, longer customer relationships. It all ties together.
What about inside the company? Especially with, say, agile teams moving fast.
That's another key role. Personas act as a communication bridge. Think about it. You've got marketing, developers, designers.
All coming from slightly different angles.
Exactly. Different perspectives, different priorities sometimes. A well-defined persona gives everyone a shared understanding of the end user.
Ah, so everyone's on the same page about who they're building for.
Precisely. It keeps everyone aligned, helps prioritize features, streamlines decisions. It just makes the whole process smoother.
Okay. Now, the guide, Personas Erstellung für deine Zielgruppe, it also draws a really important distinction between personas and a couple of other terms we hear. Target audiences and empathy maps. Can you kind of break those down for us?
Sure. So Think of your target audience as the big picture, the strategic starting point.
High level.
Yeah, very high level. It's that broad group defined by, demographics, maybe some economic factors, age range, location, income. It gives you an overview, but it's often pretty abstract.
Right, the who, but in very broad strokes, like that men 25-40 example.
Exactly. Now, the persona takes that broad who and gives them a face, a name, a story.
Makes them human.
Makes them human. It adds the specific details, their motivations, their behaviors, their backstory. It's the crucial why behind the target audience's what. It's the story, not just the statistic.
Okay, statistic versus story. I like that. And then the empathy map. Where does that fit?
The empathy map is more of a tool to dig deeper into the persona's emotional world.
Getting inside their head.
Pretty much. It helps you really focus on what they might be thinking, feeling, seeing, hearing, even doing in specific situations related to your product or service.
So target audience is the map, persona is a key location on the map, and the empathy map is like putting on VR goggles to experience that location.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, something like that.
And the real value is using all three.
Definitely. The guide suggests using them together gives you that holistic view. Target audience for strategy, persona for context, and the who empathy map for the deep emotional understanding needed for, say, design or messaging.
Strategic, contextual, emotional. Got it. Yeah. So let's get into the nuts and bolts. How do you actually create these personas? What are the first steps?
Right. The guide really emphasizes starting with target audience analysis, basically digging into the data you already have.
Existing data, like what?
Stuff like Google Analytics for website behavior, social media insights, your CRM system data on customer interactions and history.
Customer surveys, too.
Absolutely. Customer surveys, feedback forms. You're systematically looking for patterns, behavior patterns, common needs, ways people naturally group together.
And segmentation is key here, right? You can't just lump everyone together.
Essential. You need to slice that data. Look for meaningful subgroups based on, say, age, or how they use your product, or why they bought it in the first place.
So you avoid stereotypes.
Exactly. This lets you create distinct personas that represent real segments, offering genuine insights, not just, vague generalizations.
Okay, so you've crunched the existing data, found some patterns. What's next to make them feel, well, real?
That's where effective user research comes in. The guide stresses you need qualitative research to add that depth and realism.
Qualitative meaning. Talking to people.
Talking to people, yes. Things like in-depth interviews, observing users in their natural environment, maybe diary studies where they track experiences over time, or even open-ended survey questions.
And the goal here is the why, right? Not just what they do.
Precisely the why. What motivates them? What frustrates them? What factors swing their decisions?
Can you give an example? What kind of questions?
Sure. The guide suggests things like, what first made you look for a product like this? What hurdles did you face choosing one? Where did you get information? What did you expect from the solution?
Okay. Those kinds of questions really get to the core motivations and feelings.
They really do. They form the emotional and cognitive foundation of a strong persona. It's about seeing their world.
And to keep all this organized, the guide breaks down the key types of data you need for a persona.
Yeah, it provides a good structure. You need the basics, the demographic stuff, age, gender, job, education, income.
Standard profile info.
Right. Then psychographic data.
Yeah.
Their values, attitudes, lifestyle interests, what makes them tick.
Deeper stuff.
Exactly. Then behavioral data. How often they use similar products, which channels they prefer, their buying habits.
How they act.
And crucially, their decision-making process. What criteria matter most? Who influences them? What's their typical journey look like?
Right. The path they take.
Don't forget pain points, their problems, fears, frustrations related to what you offer. And finally, their goals and wishes, short-term aims, and longer-term aspirations.
Wow, that's really comprehensive. And you can see how collecting data in those buckets transforms a vague idea into something genuinely useful.
Absolutely. It gives you that 360-degree view, which helps teams make much smarter decisions.
So you've gathered all this info, structured it nicely.
Right.
What does the final persona actually look like? What are the must-have pieces?
Well, the guide makes a good point. It's more than just a list of facts. It should tell a coherent story, create a relatable figure.
Something the team can connect with.
Exactly. Empathize with. So typically, you start with a name and a picture, makes them feel real instantly.
Give them a face.
Yeah. Then a short profile summary job, age, location, maybe family status, just context.
Okay.
Then their main goals and needs. What drives them? What are they trying to achieve?
Their motivations.
Right. Then the flip side,
Mhm.
their pain points and challenges. What are their biggest frustrations or obstacles?
The problems you might solve.
Hopefully. Then their decision-making behavior. How do they research? Who influences them? What sways their choice?
How they choose.
Might also include their general behavior and attitudes, media habits, views on relevant topics, and often a really nice touch is a quote or motto.
Something that sums them up.
Yeah, it captures their core attitude or maybe a key aspiration.
That structure sounds like it really brings the persona to life, and it must help keep everyone on the team aligned, right?
Definitely. Having those standard elements creates a shared language. Everyone knows who Marketing Mary is, what drives her, what annoys her.
So when someone says Mary wouldn't like that, everyone gets it.
Exactly. It streamlines discussions and keeps the focus on the same user needs.
Now, the guide also mentions different types of personas. I guess one size doesn't fit all.
That's right. Different goals need different focuses. The guide highlights a few key ones. First, the buyer persona.
Focused on buying, presumably.
You got it. All about their purchasing journey, how they decide to buy something like your product, the touch points they hit along the way. Super valuable for sales and marketing.
Makes sense. What about that UX persona we talked about earlier?
Right, the UX persona. That one zooms in on how they actually use the product or service. Their tech skills, their context of use, their expectations for the interface.
Crucial for designers and developers.
Absolutely critical for them. And then there's the proto persona. Sounds kind of preliminary.
Is it like a draft?
Essentially, yeah. It's an initial hypothesis based on internal knowledge, assumptions, maybe very limited data. Good for getting started quickly, like for an MVP.
A minimum viable product.
Right. Or just early brainstorming. It's not as robust, obviously, but it's a starting point you can test and flesh out later with real research.
So different personas for different jobs. Buyer for sales, UX for product, proto for early stages.
Pretty much. You pick the right tool for the job, and the guide stresses that, ideally, all personas should evolve as you get more data. They're not static.
Okay, great. We've covered the what's and why and how to build. Let's talk practical applications. Where do these personas really shine? The guide starts with content marketing.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Personas are like the absolute foundation for good content marketing.
Your guiding star.
Exactly. They ensure your content actually hits home. Instead of generic stuff, you're creating things that speak directly to their needs, in their language, solving their problems.
Can you give some specific examples? How does a persona change what content you create?
Sure. Take topic selection. If you know your persona's biggest pain point is, say, managing remote teams effectively, you create content specifically about that.
Okay. What about format?
Good point. If your persona is a super busy exec, maybe short video summaries or checklists work better than like a 50-page white paper.
Tailoring the delivery.
Right? And you can tailor content for different stages of their journey. Awareness stage gets introductory stuff, consideration stage gets comparisons, decision stage gets detailed product info, TOFU, MOFU, BOFU.
Top, middle, bottom of funnel.
Yeah.
Right. So the deeper you know the persona, the better your inbound marketing works. The guide mentions Web-Mastery using this for SEO.
Yeah, they use personas to figure out the exact questions and keywords their target audience is typing into Google.
So they create content that directly answers those search queries.
Exactly. Content that's helpful and optimized to show up when the right people are searching. Smart.
Very smart. Okay, what about product development? How do personas play a role there?
In agile teams, personas basically become the user's advocate in the room.
The voice of the customer.
Sort of, yeah. When the team's debating features or prioritizing what to fix, they can constantly ask, how would tech-savvy Tom use this? Or, does busy Brenda actually need this feature?
So it grounds the discussion in user needs.
Totally. It helps validate decisions. Are we building this because we think it's cool or because it solves a real problem for our persona? Helps avoid feature bloat, too.
Building stuff nobody uses.
Right. Avoids assumptions, keeps the focus on real value, stops over-engineering. Personas become a key input for product strategy.
And the guide also linked personas heavily with UX, UI, and customer journey mapping.
Absolutely crucial there. For UX and UI designers, personas are the key to maintaining empathy throughout the whole process.
How do they influence the design specifics?
They influence everything. Information architecture, how content is organized, user flows, the paths people take, interaction design, how buttons and menus work, even the specific words use the microcopy.
Wow, down to the button labels.
Potentially, yeah. It ensures every interaction feels natural and meets the user's expectations based on who they are, based on the persona.
And you mentioned combining them with other tools.
Right. When you use personas alongside empathy maps and detailed customer journey maps, you get this incredibly rich picture.
Of the whole experience.
The whole end-to-end experience. You see their emotional highs and lows, their frustrations, their moments of delight at every single touch point. Personas make that complex reality digestible and actionable for the team.
It really sounds like using personas properly can have a big impact. The guide mentioned measurable successes.
It did. And it makes sense. Better targeting leads to higher conversion rates.
Because the message resonates.
Exactly. Better user guidance on websites or apps means lower bounce rates, people stick around.
They find what they need.
Right. Product development is more efficient because you're building the right features. And collaboration improves because everyone's aligned on the user.
So it's not just theory. It genuinely boosts effectiveness, efficiency, relevance.
Across the board, yeah. Real measurable impact.
Okay, now for something really cutting edge, the guide dives into using artificial intelligence, AI, to create buyer personas. How is AI shaking things up here?
This is where it gets really exciting, I think. AI is fundamentally changing the process
How so?
by automating a lot of the heavy lifting, the time-consuming analysis, and enabling much deeper data-driven insights from huge amounts of user data.
Processing more data faster.
Way faster. AI can analyze behavior patterns, language use, interactions across massive data sets in, well, a fraction of the time it would take manually, and generate surprisingly insightful profiles.
So weeks of work become what?
Potentially hours or even minutes, especially for initial drafts. It's a huge leap in efficiency.
And it's not just speed.
No, the guide points out AI can spot subtle patterns, correlations that humans might miss. It can generate hypotheses, create fictional but plausible persona drafts almost instantly. Web-Mastery, the source authors, seem really keen on this.
Okay, so what are the big advantages of using AI for this?
The guide lists several key ones. First, obviously, time savings. Massive time savings, especially early on.
Right.
Second, scalability. AI can handle way more data and generate multiple persona types at once.
More personas, faster.
Yeah, exactly. Third, data integration. It can process structured data like analytics, but also unstructured stuff, reviews, comments, social media chatter.
Pulling insights from everywhere.
Fourth, plausibility and diversity. Because it finds complex patterns, the personas can be more realistic and nuanced. And fifth, iterative adaptation.
Meaning they can update easily.
Yeah, you can feed new data in, and the AI can dynamically refine the personas over time, keeping them relevant.
That sounds incredibly powerful. But the guide also mentioned human in the loop. It's not just handing it all over to the machine.
Exactly. That's a crucial point. AI isn't replacing human researchers entirely. It's a powerful assistant.
A collaborator.
A collaborator, yeah. The human in the loop means human oversight, critical thinking, context are still vital. We guide the AI, interpret the results, ensure they make real-world sense.
So how does that collaboration work day to day? The guide used ChatGPT as an example.
Yeah, it showed how you can use tools like ChatGPT interactively. It's like a dialogue. The key is good prompting.
Tell me more. How does a typical chat go?
Okay, so you might start by describing your basic audience to the AI. Like, my target customer is 30-45, into sustainable products, shops online a lot.
Give it the basics.
Right. Then you give it a prompt. Create a realistic buyer persona based on this.
And it generates something.
It generates a first draft. Then you refine it. You ask for specifics. Okay, give this persona a name, job title, key goals, main pain points, and typical buying habits.
Drilling down.
Exactly. And you can keep iterating. Ask follow-up questions. How would you react to a discount code? Or create another persona, but make this one more price-sensitive.
So it's a back and forth. That sounds quite intuitive. The guide had an expert tip, too.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
The better the prompt, the better the output. Be specific, give details.
Garbage in, garbage out, basically.
Pretty much. The more context and detail you provide in your prompts, the more realistic and useful the persona that AI creates will be.
And Web-Mastery actually built a massive prompt for this.
Apparently. An 8,000-character mega prompt they use internally shows the level of detail you can go into.
Wow.
And they mention their AI assistant, which uses this detailed prompting approach, is available via a link, though they do recommend watching the tutorial video first.
To get the most out of it.
Right. Learn how to use it effectively. They seem really invested in making AI practical for this.
It definitely sounds like they are embracing AI's potential here.
Absolutely. They even ask for feedback on the tool and point people to a video showing a perfect persona created with their generator walking through the steps.
Fantastic. Well, this has been incredibly insightful, a real deep dive into personas.
It has, and just to quickly recap the main takeaways, personas, absolutely vital for really getting your audience.
Which leads to better communication, better products.
Exactly. And now AI tools are creating these personas faster, more data-driven, more scalable than ever before. It's a big shift.
And for you listening in, maybe a final thought to chew on. Just think about the data you already have about your audience,
Yeah.
current or potential. What might happen if you just tried to sketch out even a rough persona? Visualize someone. Could that alone spark some new insights about their needs, their challenges?
Yeah, even before jumping into AI.
Exactly. Just starting that process of humanizing your audience, it might reveal more than you expect. It's really just the beginning of truly connecting with the people you want to reach.